Good morning, everyone. I want to invite you to come and take your seats. Lovely to welcome you this morning, those of you here, those of you online. We're delighted that you're joining us today. I'm Reverend Mary Murray Shelton. I'm the community spiritual leader here at Golden Gate. And I want to invite you now to take a few moments to say good morning to each other. Now that you're becoming quiet and not talking to each other, stand up, move around, say hello, introduce yourselves, welcome one another. And we'll get started in just a few minutes.
It's Michael Hart's birthday today. She'll be attending online or not.
Those of you at home, take a moment to greet yourselves. We're welcoming you too. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So now that we are officially welcomed, we are going to sing our morning opening song. And Amy Steinberg is back with us today. It's been about a year since we had Amy doing songs for us. And Amy is a Posse Award-winning singer, songwriter, and storyteller. And she plays piano and guitar and likes to do all different styles of music for all different kinds of people. She has traveled a lot, and during her travels, she got introduced to metaphysics. And so she became the music director at the Boca Center for Spiritual Living, and then to Charlotte's, and then to wherever she is now, which I've lost track of. She is the creatrix of House of Love and Light, an online spiritual community. Oh, and she's also been the music director in San Diego. So she's been all over the place doing music, and she's inviting us to sing one of her songs with her this morning. All her stuff is easy to join in with. This is called I Am Divine. So I invite you to stand and join us. And here's Amy Steinberg.
Golden Gate. It's Amy Steinberg here with you today. So happy to be with you. The light of love. The light of love shines through me. The light of love shines. The light of love shines through me. I am divine. My mind lives peacefully. Peace is in my mind. My mind lives peacefully. I am divine. I am divine. Love and peace. Love and peace shines and lives, shines and lives. Love and peace grows and gives, grows and gives. Love and peace in my heart, it's in my heart, it's in my mind. I am divine. The light, come on, of love, hey, shines through me. The light of love shines. The light of love shines through me. I am divine. I am divine. Tell somebody you are divine. You are divine. As a community, we are divine.
Ooh, nice harmonies there. Give yourselves a hand. Well done. All right. So we thank Amy for getting us started this morning. It's always nice to have her with us. Been a while, and she's gotten even more colorful than she was the last time she was here, which is saying something. So now we're going to turn within and become centered. Now that we've kind of made our noise together and made our presence known to one another, that helps bring us into the community. Now we're going to go within and focus on what is inside us. And so I want to bring our morning practitioner up this morning, who is Rick Walt, to give us our opening. Thanks, Rick.
So I invite you to take a deep breath and become centered in this precious moment. And open your heart and mind to that creative energy that we call God, Spirit, Yahweh, Allah. And just feel that energy in your body. And open up to the words of wisdom that you will receive today from Reverend Mary. To the celestial voices of our Golden Gate Choir. And open up to the love that we are that Amy was talking about. For we are love. We are one with that energy that we call God. We are going to experience that today because that's who each and every one of us here, those listening online, that's what we are. We are the light. We are love. We are one with God. I know this is the truth. And I release this word into that law, that creative law, knowing indeed that it is already happening in consciousness. Thank you, Mother, Father, God. And together we say, and so it is.
This is called Shine Be Glorious. Shine, be glorious, reflect the divine. Shine, be glorious, reflect the divine. Spirit of mine, Spirit divine, let me shine your light, yeah. I open my heart, even in the dark. The light of my God always shines bright, even in the night. Shine, be glorious, reflect the divine. Shine, be glorious, reflect the divine. Spirit of mine, Spirit divine, let me shine your light. Let me be a vessel, let me be a vessel, let me be a vessel of love. I open my heart this miracle day. The love of my God gives me it all the good I can take. Shine, be glorious, reflect the divine. Shine, be glorious,
I love how much delight Amy exudes when she's singing. It's really fun to watch her from that standpoint, isn't it? So this month, we're talking about the light shining in the darkness. And last week, I talked about the importance of the darkness, actually, to help nurture and nourish. And I want to talk a little bit today about the attraction we have to light. Where is the light? Looking for the light. Because one of the things that we experience in life is the attractiveness of being able to see, because we were given these eyes for vision, so we can see. That's great. But in the darkness, what we do is we gravitate toward where the light is so we can see where we are and see what's around us. So even if the light is very dim, we tend to zero in on it in the darkness. So I love this little story. I heard this story years ago. This gal said, "My sister loves to eat jelly beans at the movies, but not the black ones. So she holds each candy up to the light for a few seconds before she pops it into her mouth. And during a particularly dark part of one movie, she'd been holding a candy up to the light for about a minute when suddenly a voice behind her said, 'It's green, eat it!'" When we're looking for the light, it's just amazing how it will draw our attention to wherever it is. I can remember if you're, being a little kid, where you're in bed, you're supposed to be quiet, you're supposed to go to sleep, but there's that light under the door where everybody in the other room is still doing stuff. And it's very interesting to wonder what's going on out there that we're missing, right? Our attention goes right there, right there. So the poet Theodor Retke once said in one of his poems, "In a dark time, the eye begins to see." And if there's no moon, and we're someplace that's truly dark, and we can't see anything, and it's clear, our eyes are going to go up to the stars. And the more we look, the more we'll see, the longer we look. And then, if we're in the darkness long enough, our eyes begin to pick up on things. Even in that much dark, we start to see more of what's there. So, instinctively, we're drawn to the light. Automatically, we're drawn to the light. So as we bring our attention to that, one of the reasons I think that light is so important to us is not only does it allow us to figure out where we are and where we're going and if we're safe and all that stuff, but also we're made of light. And maybe everything that exists in its own resonance exudes a kind of light, but we are electrical systems and we do exude light, just not light that most of us can see all the time, but people who see auras see that light and in color. So our eyes adjust to the darkness. I love Rumi's quote. He says, "I know you're tired, but come, this is the way." So in the darkness, sometimes it's hard work to find our way, and we're looking for what will lead us onward. Belruth Naparstak said in Your Sixth Sense, she's referring to the theoretical physicist David Bohm, and she says, Bohm's central thesis is that the world and everything in it is a vast ocean of energy. In Bohm's physics, the subtlest level of energy is, in fact, pure light. So, I've heard Deepak Chopra say that if we could really see the universe as it is, what we would actually see is quantum soup. We wouldn't see things that are divided up into individual, separate objects, people, plants, animals, whatever. But it would all be quantum soup. Now, David Bohm, the theoretical physicist, is saying, and actually that quantum soup is all light. It's all light. So, of course, we gravitate toward light. And, of course, that statement that got me started this month, the idea that God is this brilliant light in the darkness, not that it's a light separate from the darkness that we gravitate toward, but that somehow in this very black darkness is light. I don't know exactly how to envision that, but mystically it pulls me, that whole idea. That in the midst of darkness, if you could see it clearly, it's actually also light. Think about that. Ernest Holmes had a number of experiences with light, our founder. He says, this is in a book that is taken from things that were published after his death, the Holmes Papers. And this book is called The Anatomy of Healing Prayer. He says, in the temple, over the altar, a light always shone. Now, in a Catholic church, you'll see, I think this is still true, there is a light that hangs that's always on. It's called a sanctuary light, and it's always on because it represents the presence of God in the space. So he says, in the temple over the altar, a light always shone. This light, of course, is the symbol of the life that is never extinguished. And then he says, now this light is real. There is such a light at the center of everything. And you might someday in ordinary affairs, not realizing it, look up and see that light. You might see it everywhere in all things. Everything must become light. There isn't anything outside this light. There isn't anything in which this light does not exist. Now, don't be afraid, he says, to experiment with this light. Don't think you're silly if you believe in it. I have seen it many times. It is real. It is not illusionary. It is a light. And Joseph Campbell, who wrote The Power of Myth, or was interviewed in The Power of Myth, says, one thing that comes out in myths is that at the bottom of the abyss comes the voice of salvation. The black moment is the moment when the real message of transformation is going to come. At the darkest moment comes the light. So we're seeking that light, intentionally or unintentionally. We're not only seeking it physically, we're also seeking it in other people. So when we're experiencing internal darkness, we're looking for people who have more light than we do, who are somehow more inspiring, more centered, more present than we feel like we are. These are the light bearers. Now, the truth is, we're all of us light bearers and light warriors in some sense. But sometimes other people let us see that or feel that in ourselves more than at other times. And when we are in particular personal darkness, that's when we really need to find other people who help light us up, who help lift us up. We're attracted not only to physical light, but to people who carry light. They have a kind of resonance to them. It's not necessarily showy, but there's something about them. You know, in the stories of both Byron Katie and Eckhart Tolle, they say that immediately after they had this enlightening spiritual burst, that they were inarticulate for a while, that they couldn't really process the world and life, and they were kind of unable to describe what had happened to them. And then they gradually began to get grounded back into their systems. And at that time, people began to be attracted to them, to learn from them, to hang around them. They began to talk about what they'd experienced, and more people started to come. It wasn't like they were advertising anything at that point. It's just that there was something in them that had changed. And even people who didn't know them could feel the resonance of it attracting them. So we have this voice from Rumi saying, "Come, this is the way." Albert Schweitzer said, "Sometimes our light goes out, but is blown into flame by another human being. Each of us owes deepest thanks to those who have rekindled our light." Now, I don't think actually that our light ever goes out, but I think it can get really dim, so dim that we're not even aware of it anymore. And sometimes one thing somebody says to us sets that spark going again in a stronger way. Felix Adler says, I love this, The hero is one who kindles a great light in the world, who sets up blazing torches in dark streets of life for men to see by. The saint is the one who walks through the dark paths of the world, themselves a light. So when we don't need to set everything on fire in order to bring light to the world because we're carrying it, then we are the light bearers, in fact, in people's experience. And somebody described Nelson Mandela this way. He had the strength of will to endure a long period of hardship, the change of heart to see his opponents as human, and the intelligence to see that offering light at the end of the tunnel is always preferable to blocking the way or trying to blow up obstacles. So light bearers, that's what we aspire to be. Now, we have a small group that have aspired to be light bearers in a new way for a while, and that is our Golden Gate Choir, this little handful of people who started singing together. And we want to welcome them this morning. In the midst of my talk, this is their debut right now. So this is our new little Golden Gate Choir.
So, thanks everybody. We're excited to sing and share this with you today. In thinking about starting a choir, we just wanted to start with whatever talent we have. And we love the way that singing opens up the heart. And so we invite you to join us in this song and just have fun. If you want to, you can join our choir, come talk to me, and we can get you all set up. So without any further ado.
I send my love. I send my love. I send my love. It returns to me. I send my joy. I send my joy. I send my joy. It returns to me. I send my power. Send my power. I send my power. Send my power. I send my power, send my power. It returns to me. Peace over the mountain. Peace over the sea. Peace into the heaven. It returns to me. I send my passion over the mountain. I send my passion to me. I send my love over the mountain. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heaven, and it returns to me. It returns to me. It returns to me.
So come and have fun with them. They would really enjoy that. And so, in A Course in Miracles, it makes a comment at one point that when you're doing the lessons, you may at some point begin to see little edges of light around familiar objects. Many years ago, I was with one of the early groups that was using A Course in Miracles, and that started to happen to me. And I can remember I was in a group setting the day that it happened, and Judith Scutch, who was the publisher of A Course in Miracles, was actually talking at the front of the room. And I started to see this white light around her. And then I started to see this white light, not just around their heads, but everything I could see at the front of the room, all the people up on the stage. And I thought, this is odd. And I kind of blinked and looked around and then looked back up there, and there it was. It was the first time I'd ever had that experience in my memory. And I was astounded by it. One of the things A Course in Miracles says about that is that it's part of your process on the way to true seeing, really perceiving properly. It's not the end result, and it doesn't mean you've arrived, and it won't last forever or anything like that. But it just clues you in. And it was a powerful experience to notice that and be able to see that. So we find that the light, that light is always within us. It might be a little dim in some folks. It might be blinding in others, but it's always there. It's always there. And so we want to be able to recognize that about ourselves. There is something about the faith of willingness to believe that the light lives in us, that very faith begins to feed our ability to perceive it. So we could begin with the practice of the belief that we are a being of love and light, and just ask to be shown, continually ask to be shown that love and light, not necessarily literally, but to have a greater and greater sense of it. Because our perception follows faith. So we believe first, and then more of what we believe begins to make itself available. When Jesus said, "You are the light of the world," he wasn't kidding. We literally are the light of the world. But it is difficult for us sometimes to see that. In the book of Matthew, it says, he said, "You are indeed the light of the world. Let your light so shine before men that they might see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven," or your Father within you, the presence, the mystery, the divine. That when you let the light shine through you, it lifts everybody up into that greater light, right? Abram Joshua Heschel, who was an Hasidic rabbi, said, "Worship is a way of seeing the world in the light of God." It's that praying without ceasing. It's letting your very observation of the world become a blessing and a calling forth of more light. And Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that." So, if all of that is true, and if we're seeking to find greater light in the world, then perhaps we don't have to look so far to find it as we think. This little story comes from possibly from Leo Buscaglia, but I want to wrap up a little bit early with this today. Once there was a little boy who wanted to meet God. He knew it was a long trip to where God lived, so he packed his suitcase with Twinkies and a 6-pack of root beer, and he started his journey. And when he'd gone about 3 blocks, he met an elderly man sitting in the park just feeding some pigeons. And the boy sat down next to him and opened his suitcase. He was about to take a drink from his root beer when he noticed that the old man looked hungry. And so he offered him a Twinkie. And the man gratefully accepted it and smiled at the boy. His smile was so pleasant that the boy wanted to see it again, so he offered him a root beer. And again, the man smiled at him. The boy was delighted. They sat there all afternoon eating Twinkies and drinking root beer and smiling, but they never said a word. As it grew dark, the boy realized how tired he was, and he got up to leave. But before he'd gone more than a few steps, he turned around, ran back to the man, and gave him a big hug. And the man gave him his biggest smile ever. When the boy opened the door to his own house a short time later, his mother was surprised by the look of joy on his face, and she asked him, "What did you do today that made you so happy?" And the little boy replied, "I had lunch with God." But before his mother could respond, he added, "And you know what? God's got the most beautiful smile I've ever seen." Meanwhile, the elderly man, also radiant with joy, returned to his home. His son was stunned by the look of peace on the old man's face, and he asked, "Dad, what did you do today that made you so happy?" His father replied, "I ate Twinkies in the park with God." And then before his son could say another word, he added, "You know, he's much younger than I expected." There is something about allowing ourselves to be comfortable and present with ourselves and welcoming to other people that makes them feel safe and special and seen. And it doesn't take a lot sometimes to allow that experience to happen. It could be somebody we're having a conversation with in an elevator or in a line waiting to get into something or be served in some way. It can happen with a teller in the bank or a checker at the grocery store. It's just a moment, but it can be a moment of connection. And that moment of connection sometimes is all we need to have our lives lifted up. So if you're in a dark place inside today, we have practitioners who are available to help relight your flame, to help ignite it again. Don't carry the heaviness out with you. That's what they're here for. That's a free service on Sunday for you. And those of you online too, you can request prayer. Send an email to the office. Look at the website under the resources tab and put in a prayer request. These are available because of the power of prayer to clear away what's in the way of us seeing the truth of who and what we are. Just as Michelangelo used to say, when he had the right block of marble, he would go to Carrara and look at marble to see which one had the figure in it that he wanted to carve. And then he said, when he brought that marble back, all he did was clear away the parts that were in the way. That's what we do with prayer. We clear away the parts of our belief system that are in the way of us seeing the wholeness, the truth, the generosity of spirit, the wholeness that we already are, in spite of all the stuff we think we have to complain about. And that's the vision we want. That's the experience we want. So remember to honor everything in yourself that is of a positive nature, whatever it might be. To compliment and thank people for their light wherever you see it. That may be the one time they got acknowledgement that week or that day that made all the difference. And be sure you do it also when you look in the mirror. Namaste. Yeah, thank you. So, now, let's take a moment to bring this into the center of ourselves by turning within together. Take a breath and imagine now that not only are all of us sitting and standing in this room together, but that all of the empty space is filled with the presence of loved ones who have gone on. that all of this space is filled with ancestors and relatives, people who have walked this way before us in some fashion, and that they are here beaming with joy and delight at our willingness to simply turn within and look for the light right here where we are now. This room is filled with light because of us, not just electricity. This light that we shine helps lift all of us into a greater light, attunes our minds and hearts to receiving more good, more light, and also allowing it to flow from us abundantly without fear of running out of anything. Because the flow of God never ends, and we are a part of that. So we bless this day as a day filled with light, and we let it remind us throughout the day that it is here to be a presence, an awakening, an encouragement of light for all of us as we send ours out into the world. So we let this prayer go into the law with gratitude. We let it go into that creative energy that brings it into form and being and experience. We let it go into the mind of God where it always has been the truth about us. We just let it go and let it be. And together we say, and so it is. Yes. So I invite you to stand and join me now for the morning affirmation. Light is the essence of all life. It is everywhere around me and in me, generated by the source of all. Wherever there is darkness, I relax and consciously choose to become inwardly filled with radiant light. And so it is. Thank you. You may be seated. Now, for all of us, this is our time of sacred giving. And in honoring the giving that has been done throughout this past week by us and by others. So Golden Gate is the recipient of your tithes and offerings and gifts, any of you that choose to donate. Some of you do that automatically. Some of you have an annual commitment. And so however you've been giving, and especially if you're giving this morning, we want to bless these offerings. Thank you, ushers. So please take your offering if you're giving it physically this morning and hold it over your heart or in your hands with a loved one if you're giving it together. As we say this together, this gift, there we go. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is. Please go ahead.
Singing blooming, blooming, blooming in the light, blooming in the light, blooming, blooming, blooming in the love, blooming in the love. Spring is in me, spring is in me, come on. Spring is in me, spring is in me, we sing, spring is in me, spring is in me. Oh, spring is in me, spring is in me. Can't stop, won't stop, wanna pop, gotta pop. Big blooms, little blooms, bring some more winter blooms. Pick a bloom, leave a bloom, see a bloom, be a bloom. It's true, it's in you, you got the power in you, you got the power in you to bloom. It's true, you got the power in you to bloom. Sing it with me, blooming, we go blooming, yeah, blooming, blooming in the light, blooming in the light, blooming, come on, blooming, blooming in the love, yeah, blooming in the love. Spring is in me, spring is in me, sing that with me. Spring is in me, spring is in me, spring is in Spring is in me. How? Spring is in me. Spring is in me. I'm gonna won't stop, wanna pop, gotta pop. Big blooms, little blooms, spring, summer, winter blooms. Pick a bloom, say a bloom, leave a bloom, be a bloom. It's true, it's in you. You got the power in you. You got the power in you to bloom. Say, I got the power in me. Say, I got the power in me, and naturally I blip blip bloom and blooming, yeah, blooming, blooming in the light, blooming in the light, blooming, blooming, blooming in the love. I'm blooming in the love. A spring is in me. A spring is in me. Woo! Spring is in me. Spring is in me. A spring is in me. A spring is in me. Woo! Spring is in me. Spring is in me. Spring is in me, and it's in you.
All right. So, on behalf of Golden Gate, we do, all of us, accept this offering with gratitude, and we send it out into the world to increase the light. And so it is. All right. Thank you, Amy. We're glad you were with us this morning. Let's give Amy another hand. That was pretty fun. Now, if you're with us for the first time this morning, I want to direct your attention to this table at the back. This information table has flyers and all kinds of things on it you're welcome to pick up. And it also has welcome packets, little envelopes. Inside, there's a blue card. So we want you to go pick those up, take the blue card out of the packet, and fill it in. Turn it in to Galen, who's waving it around back there at the back, and she's going to give you a little book. That little book is our thank you gift to you for being here today, and it's also our invitation for you to come back and be with us often in the future. We'd love to have you be a regular part of our community. Also, special thanks to the Frost family for this altar of light this morning. And, you know, if the question is, where is the light, and you don't see it in your neighbor, come and stand up here for a little while. A secret about the blue ball in the middle. Now, you got to be gentle with it if you do this, but if you tap on it, it'll change colors. I think. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Yes, Karen says so. Therefore, this is the truth. So let's acknowledge everybody who has participated in making everything happen this morning. Now, today, we have a very special workshop, and I'm inviting Dr. Barbara Leger to come on up and tell you what she's going to be doing today over at the Learning Center from 12:30 to 3:30. And Barbara, you need to come all the way up here so they can see you, and I'll give you the mic. No, because we did it last week, but you're actually here today.
Okay. Well, I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was something like, if my wish for something that all of humanity could do at one time together, it would be to put peace first. And since that's entirely possible, because it's entirely up to us, there's no good reason not to do that. None. All the way down here today, I was listening to a new book. I'm studying community. And if you don't know who Peter Block is, I know Mary knows, but go get his book called Community, and let's do it as a community book. It is so extraordinary. And he said, like Margaret Mead said hundreds of years ago, never underestimate the small group of 6 or 7 people in a citizens' action club. So if you come today, I think I've done a pretty poor job up until now when I use the word peace in such a pedestrian way. I'm not talking about the idea that we can all sit in bliss forever in our respective geographic locations. I'm not talking about that, although that would be very cool. But we have a lot of work to do before that's possible. But what is possible is the kind of peace that we're going to talk about today is those little steps that we take to do what Mary was talking to us about today, to know that the light is who we are and it is what's in us, and we need to let it out. And life gives us the reasons to let it out. And we're going to look at that today. I want to say, if you can, 3 hours is a long time on a Sunday. If you want to come for an hour and leave, please do that. If you want to come for 2 and stay, please do that. Just do whatever, because I want every single person in the world to know that they can be a peace first responder, because that's what we're born for. It's just another word for God. I don't say that out loud too much, because I work in the public school system in Ukraine. So please come. Come for a little, come for a lot. It's all there. I'm grateful to be here, and I loved your talk.
So if you have not signed up for Barbara's workshop this morning, back at the back, there is a sign-up sheet, but I think at this point, just go. It's at the Learning Center in the fireside room. There may be some maps or directions back there on the back table. Go and spend a couple of 1 to 3 hours with Barbara and learn more about responding with peace before responding with something else. Next Sunday, the men's brunch is happening. And so our guys make breakfast, make brunch, and for $10 you get a wonderful brunch, including dessert and your beverage, and the proceeds go to Golden Gate, and we get to have a lovely social time together. So don't miss that. Bring your $10 and come next week for them, for sure. Also, our Sunday morning teams, we had a good team of 3 this morning. But that doesn't always happen on Sunday. And the team that does the greeting, that receives the offering and so on, they're looking for some more people to fill in some of the Sundays. So you would be only doing this for 1 Sunday a month. And we encourage you to talk to Paula Yu, who's got short dark hair, or no, it's probably gray now. Short gray hair. I've known her a while. With glasses. And she'll be coming back and forth from the kitchen. Just grab Paula and ask her about that. No obligation if you ask her, but she will encourage you, and we hope that you'll try it out. Also, next Sunday is Memorial Day weekend, and so I'm encouraging everyone, we're going to have a special memorial altar next Sunday. Bring photographs of loved ones who have passed, and we're going to fill this altar space up with those photographs. So please do that so that we can have a full complement of our dear ones and ancestors physically represented in the room with us, and we'll do some honoring about that. And finally, this next Wednesday is guided meditation at 7:15 online on Zoom. And if you'd like to join me for a guided meditation with our group that comes online, you'll find the Zoom click link on our website calendar under classes and events. Take that tab and drop down to the calendar, and you can go and click on it for that Wednesday, and it'll take you to the page, and you can click on it for the Zoom link, and you'll be right there. I mean, I make it sound not too complicated. Sometimes it's more complicated than others for reasons we don't understand, but do that. Also, if you can't find the link that way, or it doesn't seem to be working for some odd reason, look in the Tuesday email you'll be receiving, because the link will be in there as well. Okay? All right. So I've said my piece about prayer, so I want to say a word about practitioners. Practitioners, would you please stand and surround the room? We have almost 30 licensed practitioners at Golden Gate. Considering the size of our congregation, that's a lot of people. The ones that are wearing their stoles this morning, they're all licensed practitioners. Some of them have been practitioners for 30 years almost. And so we're very grateful for them. And they are going to join me in doing a chamber of prayer this morning. So we'll all be praying together at the same time out loud, but not necessarily saying the same things. And so your role is just to receive it as it washes over you without trying to identify anything in particular. And for all of us in the circle, speaking out loud, remember to also receive too. Oh, one last thing, which doesn't have anything to do with the practitioners. But our legacy circle folders are here. If you're interested in finding out more about estate planning or what you do for your legacy or how Golden Gate could be involved and what's coming up next, come to the card table over here where one of our licensed practitioners, Barbara, will be, and she will be giving those packets out to people who attended the workshop first, the workshop we did a few weeks ago, and then onward, yeah? Okay, so you can ask Barbara any questions about it as well, all right? So, oh, it's Michael Hart's birthday today. Michael Hart is one of our licensed practitioners. She's not here physically with us, but I'll bet she's online, right? So let's sing happy birthday to Michael. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michael. Happy birthday to you. That's a great time to turn within. So let's do that now. And just allow our prayer to fill the room. And so it is. I invite you all to stand and join us for the closing blessing and the closing song with Amy Steinberg. So we say this together. I now walk so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness, for Spirit and all people and I are one eternally, and so it is. All right, Amy.
We're going to close with a classic. Thank you so much for having me with you this morning or whenever you're watching this Golden Gate. Thank you for having me again, and I hope that you will always shine your light. This is a classic. I know you know it, so you got to sing it with me. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This big heart of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Well said, this big heart of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Hallelujah, this big heart of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let we sing it. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Hallelujah. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. 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 Gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Gonna let it shine. Have an amazing week. Bye-bye.